and I said stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, so to start tonight's meeting, before we get into public input, let me express a couple of things. The board has certainly been appreciative of the emails that we've gotten, the texts, the phone calls over the last month, over the last couple of weeks, all this week. We certainly take those very much into consideration during public input. As you know, we cannot comment on those, but we do take them into consideration, and they're part of our thought process. So we appreciate everyone who's done that. For public input tonight, you do have to be a resident of the Franklin Special School District. 15 people have signed up according to tonight's special call meeting. Unfortunately, we can only have 15 people and we only have 15 minutes. So again, that's unfortunate, but as I call your name, you'll come to the podium. I'm going to ask you to give 1 minute and then please take your seat. Please, we ask that, as you've always been in the past, you've always been respectful of each other. We know you have passion, but you also have shown us compassion toward your fellow people here and also toward the board. We thank you that you've extended that courtesy to us. We do have a item on the agenda tonight that we need to get to. Also, Vice Chairman Barker, she is actually still at work and has to get back to work, and we appreciate her on a Friday evening and all of you coming out. And board member Mr. Stillings is out of town on company business, but he is joining us by phone. So they have other obligations, and we know you have other obligations, so we won't. Prolong this. Again, I just wanted to say we are very thankful for all that you do for the Franklin Special School District. Please know that we do take the emails. I know each board member reads them. Again, there have been hundreds. We study the information. We look to we look to our team, our COVID team, and Dr. Snowden and all of those who provide us with information to make decisions. We look to them, and you know, we do research ourselves and we ask questions. So we are very informed of the things that are going on. We're parents, we're grandparents, we have kids, so it's and as a school board, it's a great concern to us. So again, I will call your name. You will have 1 minute. We again ask that you be respectful. We apologize that we're only giving you 1 minute, but we only have 15 minutes for our public input tonight, and then we must get to the business which is at hand. Thank you. Brandy McCutcheon. And Mr. Townsell is our scorekeeper? Timekeeper. Okay.
I'll be quick. I don't have much to say. My name is Brandy McCutcheon. I have children at FIS and FES. I'm also a sub within the Franklin Special School District. School is going amazingly well. I have subbed 7 days so far of the 2 weeks we've been in session. Our kids are doing great. Parents are sending kids to school with masks. Parents are not sending kids to school with masks. I would say that Franklin is probably 80% unmasked, 20% masked, and I love it. I love it. I love the feel. I love that parents can come in and have lunch. I love just the flexibility of it all. And I just want to speak to those 80% that are sending their kids unmasked. I want to thank our governor for passing an executive order allowing parents to make the choice to opt out of mask mandates. And I want to let the 80% of parents know that are sending their kids to school unmasked that you have a choice. You can opt out. I, along with many others, will be opting out of any mask mandate that may fall across tonight if it's passed. My kids will not be going to school with masks on. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Eduardo, and I apologize if I do not get your name correctly. But all right, thank you.
My name is Allison Eduardo, and I'm an 8th grade class representative here at FMS. I'm here to ask you to implement a mask mandate to keep all of us safe in school. More than half of my history class is missing, and we've only been here for about 2 weeks. COVID is winning, and we're losing. We're losing our chance to learn, to socialize, and to do what we love to do. And what about when the students go home? Who do they give it to? Who do they pass it on to? My family is composed almost entirely of people who are at high risk for COVID complications. What about them? If I get COVID, the chance that I'll live, that I'll be fine, is very high. But what about them and the other people I may spread it to? I sit in my geometry class, and what am I thinking about? Angles? Segment bisectors? No. I'm thinking about whether the person who sat here before me has COVID, if they coughed on the desk and now it's filled with germs. Now I'm sitting there and getting germs all over me. Disinfectants can need up to 10 minutes to sit on a surface to effectively kill germs. I have 5 minutes to get from one class to another, and I very well don't have 10 minutes to just wait around for the disinfectant to work. Another thing none of us think about, buses. Not only do 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders sit there, most of which aren't eligible to get the vaccine, but so do elementary students. Is that my time?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Courtney Rogers.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling this meeting. I'm Courtney Rogers, and my daughter's an 8th grader here at FMS. She's fully vaccinated, and she still wears a mask to school because we know wearing a mask protects others. I stand here fully vaccinated. I'm incredibly grateful to scientists, epidemiologists, and healthcare experts who played a role in this life-saving vaccine. Please allow me to speak on behalf of the kids who are too young to be vaccinated against this deadly virus, as well as the immunocompromised who aren't able to receive the vaccine for medical reasons. Please don't make this political. Please don't put politics over our children's and teachers' lives. We had a mask mandate last year and still had the options to send our kids to school virtually. We don't have that option this year. So I urge you to implement a mandatory mask and universal masking policy. Please stay true to your mission of fostering academic, social, emotional, physical development in each student and promoting responsible citizenship. A mask mandate is exactly what responsible citizens living in a society must do. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Bradley.
Hi, I'm Amanda Bradley. I'm a parent of an 8th grader at FMS. I'm a local business owner. FSSD has an obligation to protect our students, to listen to the experts around us, and rely on the available data to make decisions to keep our kids healthy and safe. So in order to keep our schools open, we have to do a better job at keeping our students and staff healthy. For most adults and those over 12, it means getting vaccinated, but most of the FSSD student population isn't eligible for the vaccine yet. Aside from the lack of masks, we had all kinds of COVID mitigated factors in place last year. Kids didn't have school assemblies, they didn't use water fountains, they staggered the lunch periods, and for reasons unknown, none of that is in place this year. So I would please urge you to put additional protections in place aside of masks. And parents need to hear from the board. The schools need to communicate with parents about the protocols for this year. None of that has been done so far. We've seen the Williamson County numbers. Our district falls squarely within those boundaries. The number of cases is the highest it's ever been. Social experiment is failed. It's not too late to change. Thank you for implementing a mask mandate.
Thank you. Rodney Aslinger.
First, I want to say that my son's principal and teacher has done a great job of making us feel comfortable. Because my son was born with half a heart, which has required him to have 4 open heart surgeries. The first one at 2 days old, the last at 4 days old, which was a heart transplant. He has to take medicine to suppress his immune system. I know this is one extreme case, but this is a public school, which means for all students. And I'm asking you to protect my son. I saw a parent come in here with a sign that says social and mental health is important. I couldn't agree more. My son has got to be in school for his social well-being. I understand the other parents' point of view, but they have never had to see their kids suffer. They have never had to see a kid go down to ICU and not come back. I'm asking you to please protect my son. There's a lot worse things that can happen to kids than wearing a mask. And I'm asking you to protect all our kids so you don't have to go through, and these other parents go through what we had to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lisa Casey.
Hello, I'm Lisa Casey. I teach physical education at Poplar Grove Elementary. We are undergoing construction, so we have one teaching space. My teaching partner and I, one of us does not have a space sometimes, but we're teaching 10 classes a day in a mask. That was incredibly difficult. Very, very challenging to project for that many hours a day through a mask. I know we all want what's best for children, and every child's needs are different, which is why I think the masking optional is the best choice for our school district. Children listen better, understand better, and respond more positively when they can see a teacher's expressions. I see a very clear difference between last year and this year, just children listening and responding. I respect teachers who choose to wear masks, respect students and families who do, and I also respect those who don't. I would also like to request that there be some data on quarantining done. What number of children who are quarantined test positive within the first 2 weeks? Is it worth quarantining? Just something to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deidre Brock.
Hi, I'm Deidre Brock. I'm the math coach at Poplar Grove Elementary, and I have a son at Poplar Grove Middle School. I'm going to speed talk through some data since Dr. Snowden said last year the district relied heavily on school level and local data to make the decisions for the mask mandate. According to the Tennessean, on August 9th through the 13th, we had 12 students and 3 staff test positive for COVID-19 in our district. According to Wikipedia, we have 3,850 students and over 300 staff. So based on those numbers, our percentage of positive cases is at 0.004%, way under 1%. The article states that Moore Elementary had the most cases with 4 students test positive. So with them having an estimated of 522 students total, that calculates to 0.008%, again, way under 1%. In closing, I'll leave you with a couple of things. First, this image of a box of disposable masks that the district used last year to pass out reads on the warning of the box. This product is an ear loop mask. This product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other viruses or contaminants.
Ms. Brock.
Warning, an ear loop
Thank you, please.
does not reduce the risk of
That's all right. Thank you,
virus.
please. Katie Swafford.
Hello, my name is Katie Swafford. I have 3 children in FSSD, and last year I signed up to be a substitute teacher when there was a shortage of subs, so I had a unique perspective into the schools that not many parents had. So I also learned a lot about masks and how kids wear masks and how masks can be harmful to children. So it's easy to say that there's no downside, but first, let me tell you what you would have seen if you were in the schools last year. Kids chew on their masks. When they leave, they are wet and dirty. They sneeze into them, they're wiping their noses on them, they're setting them down on the tables for snack and mask breaks, and they are touching them constantly. These masks are not being worn the way that adults wear them. So if you're looking at studies of mask effectiveness for adults wearing a dry, 3-ply, close-fitting mask, that is not what is actually happening in the schools. The other thing is that I realize that it's very hard for some kids to hear and speak and be heard in the classroom. So some of the kids were effectively silenced. Is that my time?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Alford. Thank you. Cecile Lane.
Good evening. My name is Cecile Linney. I'm a resident of Forest Crossing in Franklin. My husband, Stephen DeCastro, and I have 2 children in FSSD, one at Moore Elementary and one here at Freedom Middle School. FSSD is mainly comprised of students under the age of 12 who are not yet eligible for vaccination against COVID-19. Our children are at risk of catching the highly infectious Delta variant and transmitting it to the broader community. As I'm speaking, my daughter and many of her friends and neighbors are already being quarantined this week and part of next week because they were exposed at school. I know every single parent in FSSD wants the same thing. We want for our schools to remain open and for all our children to continue learning in a safe environment. Therefore, if we want our schools to remain open and if we want learning to continue without major disruptions, we must protect our children and the broader community with a simple measure, a mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric McCann. Was that Aaron?
Yeah,
I'm
my
sorry.
name's Erin McCann.
Thank
Hi. My kids go to Moore Elementary School. Everyone's been using this microphone tonight. Does this microphone have COVID all over it? Last year, we were living in Toronto, Ontario, when our school board disregarded recommendations from the Children's Hospital and imposed mask mandates in Toronto elementary schools. The teacher wore masks, face shields, installed physical plexiglass between desks, imposed social distancing. Every interaction was reduced to whether or not proper safety protocols were being perfected. Children were not allowed to sing, talk during lunch, play together. Their artwork centered around safety protocols. If they needed a mask break, they had to face the corner of their classroom. It was a dystopian nightmare that has only gotten worse. That is why we returned to the United States. And when we came to this town, we hardly saw any people wearing masks. And we thought, oh, this is so nice for our family. This will be a great place for our kids to live. And then when they got to school, half the school was wearing masks. So we are being met with our level of compliance. More rules only brings more rules. If you impose mask mandates, you are ushering in tyranny. And masking children is child abuse, and imposing mandates means advocating for child abuse. We will not comply. We will not ask permission for an exemption.
Thank you, Ms. Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominique. Last name, I'll leave it alone.
My name is Dominique, and I'm the parent of a 2nd grader at Johnson Elementary. I'm here to ask the school board to please implement a temporary mask mandate, given that it would be consistent with both the recommendations of the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as take into account the rapid rise of COVID infections in our area. There's nothing I can say as a layperson or a parent that you haven't heard before that will change the minds of the friends here who disagree with me. However, I am looking to this school board to take seriously your responsibility to make a decision, however unpopular, that is in the best interests of the children and families that you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Lance Shelby.
Good evening. Thank you for your commitment to our community. This is a difficult time, and you guys have been charged with a very difficult task. Let me say, I'm not anti-mask. I'm anti-mask mandate. We, parents, have the ultimate responsibility for the health and well-being of our kids. The ability to make decisions that effectuate those outcomes for our kids' safety is inherent in that ultimate responsibility. Obviously, the recent data regarding COVID is troubling, but it does not curtail our rights as parents to choose what is best for our children. If this trend continues and kids are becoming more affected, I may encourage my own kids to wear a mask. But that is my right as a parent and my decision responsibility. It is not the privilege of the board to enforce others' wishes on my family. As you're aware, the governor of Tennessee has issued an exemption to this mandate. There will be a lot of families that opt out of the mandate, so the end result will be the same. Those who want to wear a mask will wear a mask. Those who don't will not. We will end up at the same place without parents' rights being trampled. I'll close with asking you not to impose a mask mandate.
Thank you. Lee Flatt.
I'd like to speak in favor of the mandate. My son is just entering Franklin Elementary in a inclusion course for 3-year-olds with speech delay, so he's very young, but he can wear a mask. He is disciplined enough. He's also going to have open heart surgery within the next 12 months, and he'll be in an ICU for about a week. And I'm not surprised to hear that there's already been more than one in just a 15-minute session here, because it's never just one, and even if it was, there's really no number small enough to justify the level of harm that could come to them because of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Bowles. Chris.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. Chris. I've been a physician and a chiropractor for the past 10 years, taking care of over 4,000 people. For the first time ever, I've been accused of being uncaring and uncompassionate, which is a mystery to me, because every day I make challenging lifestyle choices that either promote health or invite sickness for myself and my family. The responsibility of caring for the health of myself, my family, my kids, and my patients has always fallen on me. There is no one else taking the blame or responsibility for our health but myself. And shockingly, I've seen more unhealthy individuals than ever before try to force their destructive and unproven personal health philosophies on me and pinpoint me as uncompassionate for disagreeing. So for the first time, instead of asking people who are proactive with their health on a daily basis before COVID, long before COVID, and who rarely get sick, how they can be like that, they expect those exceptionally healthy and asymptomatic people to comply with their sickness promoting strategies. It's like asking healthy people to act like sick people, and I disagree with that.
Thank you, Chris.
God gave you an immune system, and I'm thankful. Thank you guys as a board too for listening and keeping the dialogue open as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mindy. And after Mindy, this will conclude our public input.
I am a mom of 4 and a husband and a wife to a husband who's been an EMT working the front lines of most of the COVID pandemic. Today, I want to touch on perspective and precedent. This meeting is specifically about mandating masks for children, so I'm going to focus on them. The CDC states in the 2017-18 flu season that 528 children died, 10 of which were in Tennessee. 528 in a 4 to 5 month period. In comparison, during the same 18-month time period for the COVID pandemic, 296 children, school-age children, have died, 6 within Tennessee. Children make up fewer than 1/4% of all COVID deaths. The risk to children remains extremely low, lower than many recent flu seasons. I bring this comparison up not to diminish the painful reality of these families, but to give some perspective that's vitally important in making this decision. If I were to suggest that we should mandate masks every year, every flu season for our children, we would think that would be absurd. But if you do that today, you are setting the precedent that if we have an illness that is equal to or less than a flu, it is okay to mandate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, that concludes our public input. We certainly appreciate each and every one. This time, we will move forward. Approval of the board agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the board agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right. Business before the board. Dr. Snowden?
Yes. No matter what position you take on the mask issue, your opinions are valued. I hope we will continue to recognize that we as individuals, educators, board members, and parents are not enemies. The enemy we are constantly fighting is COVID, a virus none of us wanted or expected, Our goal now is to do everything we can to defeat the real enemy of COVID. When we presented the health guidelines in July, the use of masks was not a requirement, as we had experienced great success in our summer programs without using that specific mitigation protocol. We also wanted to have an opportunity to analyze school and district data along with community data as school began, because last year our school and district data demonstrated much lower sickness in schools than the community was experiencing. The first 5 days of school this year went well as far as positive cases, but then the numbers began to significantly increase at the end of last week and the beginning of this week. We have significantly more positive cases and a higher number of quarantines. Are the higher number of quarantines due to not having a mask requirement, or because of the more contagious nature of the current prevalent variant, or a combination of those and other variables? We cannot, I don't believe, definitively answer that question. The health and safety of the students and employees are paramount, and a secondary and also extremely important goal is to do our very best to have less students excluded and then placed in quarantine by the health department. I believe parents want and need their children in school, and we want them to be in school. Superintendents have been informed that schools and school districts are responsible to notify parents and the health department of positive cases and close contacts, and our nurses in schools have done a great job with this. According to the Tennessee Department of Health, students who are wearing masks do not have to be considered a close contact as long as both the positive case and the other students were correctly wearing masks. Additionally, superintendents have now been informed that school districts cannot use stockpile days, otherwise known as snow days or inclement weather days, for individual schools. If we close one school, the entire district loses a stockpile day. Once you lose all your stockpile days, any days missed afterwards will have to be made up either during a break, a holiday break, or at the end of the year. We are definitely concerned about keeping schools open, and that's already been a point today. The few days last year when a school was completely closed was primarily because there was not enough adults to provide appropriate supervision. We have had a significant number of breakthrough cases of fully vaccinated employees who can also spread the virus to students and other employees. Additionally, as already been stated today, the decision by the state to not allow the continuation of the virtual teaching and learning model we used last year has taken that option away from school districts and parents. At this point, we believe the prudent decision is to recommend a temporary mask requirement inside all FSSD schools, buildings, and buses, effective Monday, August 23rd for employees, students, and visitors. If this requirement is approved, there will be a grace period allowed on Monday for students so parents can have the sufficient time to complete an opt-out form based upon Governor Lee's Executive Order number 84. We also recommend that the temporary mask requirement expire at 11:59 on September the 21st. The board will have the opportunity at their board meeting on September 20th to reevaluate the data related to the temporary mask requirement if approved tonight. The COVID team is available for questions if any of you have questions of me or the COVID team members.
We need to get a motion on the floor. Is there a motion on the floor for the recommendation?
I make a motion.
Mr. Townsend makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bell makes a second. Or was that Mr. Stillings?
I think he made a sound.
I think it was both of us.
Okay. We'll take your word for it, Ms. Stillings. Ms. Stillings makes a second. Discussion?
I had one question that you just brought up when you shared, because my concern is keeping schools open. And can you just reiterate, if students, this is new this year, if students are masked and another student is masked, we will have less quarantine. The sending students home for quarantine has been one of our biggest concerns, correct?
Well, and let's go back, the verbiage, that is correct. The verbiage is schools cannot quarantine. The only entity that can quarantine is the Department of Health. However, school districts, many school districts, and I think it's appropriate, And we will be following the data that someone asked about, how many of those students who are excluded and then quarantined are actually getting sick. Last year, our experience, very few students that were excluded and then quarantined by the health department got COVID. We don't know about this particular variant, the Delta variant. It may be, but we're going to monitor that data as well. So going back to your initial point, if the positive case and the student are wearing masks and wearing them correctly, then that means that that person that does not test positive but was a close contact does not have to be considered a close contact. So that lessens the opportunity, or lessens, that student will not have to be excluded and not be sent, a name sent to the health department for possible quarantine.
Okay, thanks.
Dr. Snowden, can you speak to our abundance of masks available for families and sharing with the young people their proper use in using them?
Tell me, say that question again, because
we have an abundance of masks available, and
I have to ask Shelby or others. I don't know what.
We do have masks available. I would have to get an exact count on how many we do have. We aren't getting them this year from TIMA like we were last year. So I would have to evaluate that. I do know we have quite a few in the Annex cafeteria right now that are stored there that we could distribute if we needed to. We would have to evaluate what that would look like for us moving forward if we needed more.
and then the proper use of using them for the young people. Will you speak to that? The proper use of using the mask for young people. There were a couple of concerned parents that mentioned the use of mask and for the young people.
Right, and they would be, we would help them to understand the proper way to wear a mask. That gets challenging in the midst of just teaching, but we would do our best, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
This is really quick. I know we get weekly COVID reports. Could we also start having, if we're going to do this on a trial basis, could we have comparisons for the start of the school year so we can actually kind of look at this to see if it's making a difference versus just seeing a decrease? Can we have like it on all the information together?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one thing to say, and it echoes what I said last time. I wear the mask because I've already been vaccinated. I don't wear it for me. My likelihood of getting COVID is lessened. If I do get it, the likelihood that I'll be asymptomatic is greater. I could be asymptomatic. So I think it's important that we wear the mask. So I'd hate to not wear it, catch COVID, and then pass it along to a young kid because I'm asymptomatic and don't realize it. That's why I advocate the mask. And that's why I was excited to hear that two people seconded it. I was concerned. Do I love the mask? No. Do I think it's important that we wear them? Yes. I think this is the right decision. I absolutely do. And the fact that having a mask now, if one child has a mask and somebody else may test positive for COVID, they don't necessarily have to leave. That's incredible. And the fact is we don't have the same options we had last year of being able to school remote. Because of that, this is the only decision we can make. And I heard the parents, and I heard you. I mentioned that last meeting. I read your emails. I read them all. I read them this time as well. And I hear you, and I understand why you're passionate. But I'm also passionate for your kids as well. We do this without pay. No one can say it's about pay. We do this because we care about your kids. We care enough to do what isn't fun, but it's necessary. So hopefully the board will go ahead and we can pass this unanimously.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'd also like to make a statement. I have 3 school-age children, 2 seniors, a senior and a junior at Franklin High, and another one that's in another school. And I would like to just share that last year my family had 9 unknowing quarantines. One daughter had 5, and it's very difficult. So I just want you to know that we understand because we have school-age children. Some of us are a little past that, but we are parents, and
we're not minimizing anyone's personal choice, but we are trying to keep your children in mind as we make these decisions. And you've always, as a district, been very faithful in expressing your opinion. For the most part, your tone is gracious. In some cases, it's not so gracious, but again, it's your opinion. And I want you to trust us. We followed protocol and did a lot of things that were not popular last year, and yet you trusted us in our decisions, and we trust our COVID team to be as thoughtful, as data-driven as they possibly can. And so that's our request of you. And we thank you for your positive, your feedback, and you can continue to have feedback with us, but I just hope that you will be very gracious in the way that you express it to us.
Thank you. No other discussion?
Robert, I just wanted to say that our COVID protocols are on our website. I want to clarify that. I think someone asked, it's under the FSSD Together tab if anybody's looking for that. And thank you all for coming and being kind and gracious with your comments.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion, we have a motion, we have a second. Are you ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Mr. Stillings is an aye. Passes unanimously. Is there anything else before the board? There's nothing else before the board. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Meeting. If you would, we will turn our attention over to Dr. Farmer, and he will give us the Pledge of Allegiance, and then afterwards have a moment of silence.
Good evening, everybody. Charles Farmer, the principal at Freedom. I want to introduce Mr. DeMumbrian, Adam DeMumbrian, and Amanda Nunez, and Dr. Nunez. That's our administrative team. I'm partial. I think we're probably the best administrative team in the district, but